What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. All right, moving on to Spurs-Mavs. The second half of this game was the most fun that I've had watching the Mavs in the entire Luka era. They hung a 135.2 offensive rating in the second half. There's just so much more ball handling and overall offensive talent on this team, and it just changes the way they look when they're playing offense. The starters in the early third quarter, they're getting Luka the ball coming out of action instead of just walking the ball up, like having him coming out of the corner off of a wide pin down or a Chicago action or a dribble handoff, right? They ran Chicago action with Klay coming off of the dribble handoff with Kyrie setting the first screen, and they got a wide open three for Kyrie on the right wing that he knocked out. That is a 5-out concept with ball and player movement that involves all of your offensive skill. They ran a lot of double drag. They ran double drag with Kyrie and Gafford screening for Luka while PJ Washington was running an off-ball action for Klay in the right corner. Luka missed a step-back three on this possession, but that's a really advanced concept, and the entire paint was like vacated, and the entire left side of the floor was vacated. Like there's going to be universes where they can get like quick ISOs for Kyrie on the weak side out of that. Or I thought Klay was open in the corner too. I think it was Champagne. He was guarding him. He tried to go like up over the top of the screen, and Klay was actually open for a second. That was kind of an interesting concept. They ran a traditional just wide pin down for Klay to come off to the elbow. He came off to the right elbow and he was wide open, got a really good look out of it. There was a lineup in the late third quarter that went on a run. It was a bench group. So no Luka, no Klay either. It was Kyrie, Jaden Hardy, Najee Marshall, Maxi Kleber, Derek Lively. That's a lot of ball handling. Like Kyrie can dribble, Jaden Hardy can dribble, Najee Marshall can dribble, and Maxi as a big has a good amount of offensive skill. They would like to have Lively at the top of the key. This is a 5-out concept. Lively at the top of the key, catching the ball and looking as Najee and Jaden were like screening for each other and cutting off of him and all of that vacant space behind him, so Lively can function as a passer and like look to catch any defender that like botches a switch or trails too much on a screen. Najee got an easy layup out of that action at one point, just kind of brushed off a Lively's shoulder. He kind of threw it over the top. He ended up getting an easy layup. Najee had a transition probe where he was like dribbling up the floor in transition, made a really nice kick out pass to Maxi Kleber in the left quarter. He knocked it down. Start of the fourth quarter, completely different group comes in, completely different layered amounts of offensive skill. Luka Doncic, Klay Thompson, Quentin Grimes, a movement shooter, right? Maxi Kleber with that group, and Daniel Gafford at the 5. The first bucket they got with that, they had the same sort of idea where they had Daniel Gafford catch the ball up top. Again, this is a 5-out concept where he's functioning as like the passing fulcrum. Gafford has the ball up top. Luka comes out of the corner on the left side of the floor and just back screens for Quentin Grimes. When he back screens for Quentin Grimes, Luka's man doesn't want to help. Quentin Grimes gets a wide open layup out of it. Like just an easy layup where Luka's a screener. Luka's not even touching the ball. He's just setting an off-ball screen and using the threat of his offensive ability to get Quentin Grimes a wide open layup. The next possession, they run the exact same thing. This time, Jeremy Sohan hangs back to help on Quentin Grimes coming off. Then Luka comes off the dribble handoff. And when he comes off the dribble handoff, he gets a wide open look from 3. This is that like Finland action that you've seen the clips going around on social media with JJ Redick and LeBron and in the Mind the Game podcast. The Lakers running a bunch of this last night. I saw the Pistons running it last night. It's a really common play. It's basically the functionality of like using a shooter as a screener before he comes off the actual action, because it helps generate separation between him and his defender, as that defender has to help on that first screen that he sets. So they run it twice, right? We get Grimes back cut layup. We get Luka coming off when Sohan helps and he hits a 3 at the top of the key. The next possession, they switch to stack. Again, stack pick and roll is just the ball screen. So it's Gafford and Luka running a ball screen, but Klay Thompson setting a back screen for Gafford as he's rolling to the basket. They run stack. Klay gets wide open at the top of the key. He hits a 3. Luka hits a transition 3 after that. Luka hits another 3 out of a ball screen after that. The possession after that, they run stack again. And I think it was Keldon Johnson and CP3 wanted to switch. It's a common thing you'll see with stack where it's like the big man will stay on the big man, but the guy guarding the guard and the guy guarding the shooter will switch, will just interchange as they're coming off. But Keldon Johnson like screamed up to close out at Luka, and CP3 was like slow. So Klay Thompson just didn't even bother setting a back screen on Gafford. He just ran to the 3-point line because no one was guarding him. And Luka just throws him an easy little pass on the left wing, and he knocks down yet another three. I have not seen this level of offensive variety in the Luka era. Not anything close to it in the Luka era. And I don't think people have any idea how scary this can get, because this was so much of a brute force offense that relied so much on Luka's individual greatness, and they are putting in a schematic approach that still will amplify Luka's individual greatness, but will also generate all of these easy shots. And again, that's the variety element that's so important. Again, they ran into issues in the playoffs last year. There was a limitation to this offense when they ran into really good defenses, really good defenders, wearing Luka down. This is why they made this change this offseason. And again, when the moves were made this summer, if you guys remember, and again, it's a pretty simple change in philosophy, right? You're turning defensive-minded play finishers, guys like Derek Jones Jr. and Josh Green, into guys with real offensive polish, like movement shooters, like Klay Thompson and Quentin Grimes, who can fly off of screens and be a threat to shoot, but also can play make out of it. Guys who can put the ball on the floor and make plays. Najee Marshall, Spencer Dinwiddie, who didn't really play much tonight. Jaden Hardy wasn't a change to the roster, but who continues to improve every year. If you guys remember, at the time of the Klay Thompson deal, this is what I said. I said, I love this move within the context of a change in offensive approach. There are diminishing returns when you use skilled offensive players strictly as play finishers, right? Like if you ask any of you guys who's a really good shooter to shoot standstill corner threes versus Kyrie Irving, the gap isn't going to be as big if you're a good shooter. If you can shoot knockdown, just standstill corner threes, that shrinks the gap. But as soon as I start running action, you're going to look like you're not an NBA player, and Kyrie's going to look like Kyrie Irving, right? In order to, that's the diminishing return. The diminishing return is when you don't allow these skilled offensive players to actually weaponize their skill. Then you get, it actually enhances the returns you get on your talent set when you have those guys actually functioning as part of the offense. And that's what I said this summer. If they trade for Klay and they just stick his ass in the corner and they run spread pick and roll, I don't like the move, because Klay's not nearly as good a defender as Derek Jones Jr. And yeah, he's going to hit, an additional 5%, maybe 7-8% of his corner threes, but like it's just not, you're not getting the value that comes from that, right? This was incredibly encouraging. This was the most fun I've had watching this team in the entirety of the Luka era. That second half, if you guys haven't watched it yet, if you haven't had a chance to rewatch it, just go rewatch this second half of this Dallas team and just look at the variety, look at the offensive organization, look at how everybody is involved. It was beautiful. I have no idea what this team is going to look like defensively yet. I mean, that Spurs performance was abominable offensively. I was honestly really disappointed. Wemby looked bad. We'll talk about it here in a minute, but like we'll see, because Klay Thompson obviously isn't going to be as good as a perimeter defender as Derek Jones Jr. It would be absurd to expect him to. Derek Jones is a professional perimeter defender. Klay Thompson in his prime was a very good perimeter defender, but now he's kind of on the tail end of his prime, if not even outside of his prime. So like, it'd be ridiculous to expect that. But at the same time, if you become an unguardable offense, it doesn't matter if you experience a little bit of a dip on the defensive end of the floor. It was a great debut for Klay. Really thrived in the chaos. 8 of his 22 points came in transition. Like, he only had 3 spot-up opportunities in the game. The majority of his opportunities came in the chaos. Like, again, like, really good defenses are not going to just let Klay be open. They're going to stay glued to him, right? But in chaos, when it's like live ball turnovers, transition pushes, offensive rebounds is another big one. Those kinds of situations are where Klay can find himself open. And the Mavs haven't had a guy who's like straight up deadly in those situations yet. And that's what Klay Thompson is. He makes action harder to guard when he's involved. Again, like any screening action, instead of it just being Luka, ball screen, go, interchanges, whether it's Klay back screening, for the roll man, or maybe it's a ram screen where Klay screens for the roll man before he goes up and sets a screen. Maybe it's Klay in a double drag screening for Luka before he comes off. It's those kinds of interchanges where Klay is involved in the action is going to make so much easier for Dallas. Derek Lively was awesome, 15 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists. This style of offense will really show you guys how much more he is capable of offensively. 6 assists, guys. And if you don't believe me about how this is so different, he had one game all season last year where he had more than 4 assists, and he had 6 assists tonight. I bet you we have a bunch of games this year where Derek Lively has 6+ assists because he's going to function more as a passer while there's all of this whirlwind action happening around him, which makes better use of Derek Lively's skill set. If you just have him screening and rolling to the basket, he'll only get to use it when they blitz Luka, which they may not even do that much if Klay Thompson is on the floor, right? So like this is the kind of offense that will really weaponize this skill set. I thought Jaden Hardy had a really nice shift in the first half. It was just a really, really impressive first outing for the Mavs. And again, this is where the exciting potential for the Mavs is if they reach another level offensively than where they were last year. Go look at the offensive numbers for Dallas in the playoffs. Their defense kept them in, some good late game shot making from Luka and Kyrie, but the offense ran into a wall against Oklahoma City. It ran into a wall against Boston. This is that variety that could give them more resilience in those specific situations. On the Spurs front, I was really disappointed. Victor looked weirdly disengaged in the first half. Like he wasn't being strong with the ball. Guys were just kind of taking the ball away from him. He was settling for a lot of really tough jump shots. He ended up going 5 for 18 from the field. I talked a lot in preseason how I want to see them give him more opportunities to score as a roll man as opposed to just straight post-ups and perimeter catches. And he got one roll man possession all game. And it was one where there was it was kind of poorly set up and he rolled into a bunch of traffic. He happened to break open at the end of the play. But it just was ugly. It's kind of the Jokic role, right? Like I talk about that where it's like, get him these opportunities to quick catch around 10, 15 feet and take easy short-range shots, whether that's a short mid-range jump shot, a floater, a quick catch into a quick post move with an advantage against a smaller defender. I just want to see more opportunities like that. And then I was hoping the ball handling would be at a higher level for the Spurs this year, and it just continues to be so much bad ball handling. 7 turnovers from Julian Champagnie and Jeremy Sohan. The Jeremy Sohan dribbling the basketball experiment needs to end. It's driving me crazy to watch. I think the Spurs might actually be further away than I thought coming into the season. But again, one game, don't want to overreact. We'll give them more time before we make any sweeping declarations. But they didn't seem like a team that was close to being good in tonight's game.